the speakers to the table. Dr. Cingolani, Mr. Simoni, Professor Rugge, and also a fourth one, Mr. Maurizio Vecchione, who is the Vice President for Global Good and Research at Intellectual Ventures, in charge of the Global Good Fund, which is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I would start with Mr. Vecchione and ask him to explain his model of philanthropy and how it is beneficial to research and to marketable inventions. I will ask everybody to answer in a couple of minutes so that we can move quickly.
Thank you. Some of you that have been around this stuff for a few years already my story, because I've told it last year at the conference. So I will try to stick to some highlights since I didn't want to do a presentation. So I'll just give you enough so that you can ask me some good questions. Bill and Melinda Gates, circa in the year 2000, made a strategic decision that was transformational to the business of philanthropy. Bill has made a stated decision that by 20 years after his death, the entire capital will be gone and given to philanthropy. So they are driving a new type of philanthropy, which is very large scale. I think I made a comment to some of you earlier that we were talking about that if Bill was a country and you use this investment as a metric of research and development based on where research and development is around the world, he would be the 7th largest investor in scientific research in the world. Following countries like China, the United States, and so on. So we have a unique privilege, or I have a unique privilege in looking at managing a scientific research investment that is global, it involves 100 countries, that is government-like in size and scope, but is actually controlled by one man and can move with extremely high agility. And so many of the questions that you talked about today, which is how do you get an academic research environment to, for example, perform the right translation into product and industry? How do you get academic institutions to exist with industrial institutions? How do you create technology and science out of academic research that moves the needle in human disease, in human needs? Those are issues we've been struggling with for the last 10 years. I wish I could tell you we have all the solution. We do have funding, so it's almost the opposite problem than the one you have. We now have to figure out how to put the funding to use in ways that we actually move the needle. One of the dangers in being scientists is that you tend to see every problem through the lens of science. Is to work for the 3.5 billion people that are at the base of the pyramid, the poorest people on the planet. And when you look at everything through a scientific filter, you tend to invent a lot of solutions that are in search of problems. So we try to be very careful with that, and we've developed completely new approaches, some of which I was very pleased to see are actually some of the ones being used in the Human Technopole project. For example, we do a lot of quantitative predictive modeling, where we try to analyze before we do something what the impact in society will be of the thing that we'll do. We apply that a lot to our disease campaigns. We are tackling the 5 highest burdens of disease in humanity. And our goal is to do eradication strategy. So we want to eradicate these diseases. And to do that, we need a lot of predictive modeling to figure out what interventions are important. I'll stop with that, but that gives you a sense of what we do.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Vecchione. Mr. Simoni, talking about the opportunity of translating research into business opportunities, the Italian government issued 4 years ago a law about startups with special incentives for researchers, scientists to build their own business. Do you have an assessment of the results of this law, and do you think you are going to change anything about it? Well,
yes, very briefly, we have a positive assessment of the scheme that was launched 4 years ago and was strengthened over time, so that now you have special fiscal regime for all the innovative startups that operate in Italy. And I think that comparatively, the European Commission just ranked Italy either the first or the second in regulatory terms for startups. What we're doing now is developing two things. On the one hand, we are strengthening the venture capital market in Italy because startups need to grow, and companies that are medium or small size need to become or have the chance to become larger. So we have launched a number of different programs depending on the size of the company that aims at putting behind what's called, I think in the US, it's called the Gazelle program, which is like this kind of programs out of which, for example, companies like Under Armour were born. So from a startup to a large international company with the help of the right measure from the governmental side. On the other hand, we are launching, and this was mentioned in the previous presentation, a specific program for what we call Center of Competence, which are supposed to be in between basic research, academic research, and industry. So to facilitate technological transfer training so that small and medium enterprises scale up their technology, and also to do applied research. And they will be launched in 2016 across Italy on the base of the industry needs.
Thank you so much. Talking about startups, by the way, 2 days ago, there was a deadline for the application to a special prize for startups founded by Italians abroad. I hope that some of the scientists, researchers applied among the ISNAF members. And I'm curious to know from the embassy how many startups from America applied. Professor Rugge, here in America, the system of startups incubators within universities works very well. What about incubators in Italian universities? Which problems do you have? How is it going?
Well, as I said before, I think this is a relatively weak point of our education and research system. Startups have been developing. You've been asking a question similar to that a second ago, but the problem that we have is mostly absence of a tradition and ability in becoming entrepreneurial from the side of the younger scientists. This has been changing, but it's still very slow. What I recently have been talking to somebody who was producing an idea that could be patented, but he said he would rather just give it away without any attempt to develop it to the level of a patent. So there is not an entrepreneurial conception of the results of scientific work. I think that this is probably the most problematic point at the moment.
Thank you. Dr. Cingolani, in New York, Cornell University and Technion are building this huge new campus of applied sciences focused on breeding a new generation of scientists / entrepreneurs. Is anything like that going to happen at the Technopole?
Well, who knows? In principle, there's all the ingredients for a very good interaction with companies. I mean, to be honest, I didn't mention in detail this issue primarily because of confidentiality right now. But really, there are many big companies that are quite interested in exploring the perspective of a human technopole. On the other hand, I think we should be very pragmatic, considering the interaction within public and private in Europe and in Italy versus United States. We are incomparably primitive compared to the American system. I mean, this is clear. And maybe new initiatives like the Human Technopole, the new initiatives that the government is trying to put in place, and so on, should accelerate our development. But I think that the main problem that I see, for instance, when we're talking about startups, the main problem that we have to face in IIT when we launch a startup is for sure not the problem of the entrepreneurial attitude of our young people. It's the problem of the bureaucracy. It's the problem that investors don't want to put money in Italy because they are afraid of what the justice is in case of litigation. And these are problems, real problems. I think that we need a lot of work. But I think also the fact that we are aware that this problem exists is very important. I think things are going to change maybe faster than we might expect.
Yeah, sure. We hope so. Mr. Simoni, Dr. Cingolani has just stressed the problem of bureaucracy, and previously he stressed the fact that the calls for people working at the Technopole will be according to the international method. Here in New York today, with the Premier Matteo Renzi going to the state dinner, is Raffaele Cantone, the president of the Italian authority that fights against corruption, and he just published a very, interesting report about meritocracy in the universities and tests, claiming that researchers are leaving Italy because of the system of the test. What is the government going to do about it?
Well, I think that there is a debate on this within the Italian academic community. So there is part of it which stresses the relevance of forms of corruption, and a sizable part that stresses the importance of the lack of resources of one of the key motives for less than open and less than transparent processes of recruitment, which overall form a debate that I think the government is trying to address by, on the one hand, increasing resources, availability of resources to all universities, and on the other hand, by identifying new incentive structures. If you do not have large research centers in the country, in every given country, you don't develop a competition for excellence at the level of the more peripheral institutes. A system that works well is a system in which both parts, the peripheral and the elite, play their own role, and this is what is needed so to reduce the impact of, so to speak, corruption. I use this word loosely. And then, of course, there might be single cases that need prosecution by judicial authorities, but this happens in every country.
Yeah, thank you. Professor Rugge,
yes.
Your University of Pavia, has started a very interesting experiment. You call them Magistrali Plus degrees, which are in collaborations with companies that will host students for a period. Has the experiment already started?
It has started in the sense that we will have the first students in now. We had our first students now. What is interesting in this experiment is that students who want to apply for this master program are selected by a joint committee of professors and company leaders. And the companies are paying for 2 semesters a small salary, which shows their concern, their real interest in the matter. I think this belongs to the more general change that I mentioned before, that a new trust and a new I could say a new pact has been established between Italian universities and Italian corporate world. We are trusting one another much more than in the past, and this is why such initiatives may be born and may hopefully work. But let me say one thing about this question you posed to Simoni about Cantone. I think this is incredible that you have an authority, a state authority, which makes such unwise statement about the system of the Italian system. But this is really terrible. I think that this man should be a wise man and realize that he's putting together two things that have now connection. We do educate very good scholars, and these people are just the evidence of that. We are educating very good students, and they go away because we do not have enough money to offer them to stay. So bringing up a connection between the fact that there are some cases of corruption and the fact that very many young talents have to go, it's irresponsible.
Okay, I think we will go on discussing this also over the cocktails, maybe, or the coffee. Dr. Cingolani, which skills and human qualities must have candidates to be hired by you? I mean, of course, the academia and scientific criteria are obvious, but what else?
Must be outstanding.
That's it? Okay. You said that you have more than 50 nationalities in your...
57 at the count of June, but you know, this is a changing continuously. It's always stably over 50 countries represented in the institute.
From which countries do you have more applications?
It's a good question. I mean, I've shown a map before. We really get people from everywhere. I mean, including the United States, Japan. So if the expectation is that we drain only people from, underdeveloped country, the answer is no. We do get people from everywhere. But consider that IIT is really developing very, very hard advanced technologies. So, when you're in really 3 nanometer scale nanotechnologies, humanoid robotics, artificial intelligence, you tend to attract people from kind of rich, advanced countries, which is quite normal. The offer is good, the lab are top class, salaries are good, budget is good, international environment. So this becomes it's a bootstrap effect. It's a good magnet.
Mm-hmm. Great. Mr. Vecchione, what do you think about this project of the Human Technopole?
Well, I should preface that personally, I only know what you and others have been writing about it, and actually, I learned more today than I think I knew. So perhaps that's one issue. Is it would be great for the international community, let's say the community I live in every day, to know some of this. And I think there's another comment that I wanted to make, which is a bit of an undercurrent, and I think those of us that are studying and working in the States, I always like to say that every time I meet Italian researchers or Italian institutions, it almost seems like they spent the first half of the meeting trying to convince me that Italy can do good work. And it's almost like we have an inferiority complex, okay? And I don't think anybody in the world questions it. So, when I go and pitch an investor or pitch a company or a university in California, they don't start out telling me what great reasons we should be staying in California. They tell me what they're doing. When Roberto tells me the things he's doing, I'm already thinking of 10 things that I should be talking to him about and that we should be collaborating. And that means funding, that means people, that means companies, that means all the ecosystem that comes around innovation. So I would encourage the government, the institutions, the research institutions, the corporate world, to stop thinking about being Italians and having to convince people about being Italian, to stop thinking about the brain drain, to start thinking about they are part of the global research community. Let's start talking about what we're doing, and let's start making sure that what we're doing has the outcomes that we are expecting, whether it's commercial outcomes, whether it's social impact outcomes, or whether there are others. And I think that will rise Italy to the right level. And by the way, these issues of corruption, complexity, bureaucracy, you know, I spent the morning, the reason why I wasn't here in the morning was because I spent it at the Pentagon, meeting with DOD. Okay, talk about bureaucracy. Okay, and so we have that too. It's not unique to Italy. Maybe there are some aspects of doing business in Italy that makes it particularly hard. But I'm a bit more optimistic. And I also think our young people, those of you that are in university now, those of you that may be heading into university, that generation of Italian is extremely well trained. And I think it's a generation that does no longer have the luxury of thinking about approaching their job, their career in classic sense. It's no longer the job that you keep the rest of your life and all those kind of things. They are innovators almost from the get-go. And if we give them the tools in the universities, in the institutions, the research institution, to turn that innovation into an entrepreneurship, I think we can do some great things. So I don't know, maybe this was not exactly on your question, but it's on the whole initiative.
Thank you so much. I think it's time to open the discussion to everybody. So questions from the public. The first one over there. Wait for the mic, and please say who you are.
Hi, thank you very much for what you said. It's very refreshing, some of the things you have said. I'm Dr. Scarcella, I'm a physician, and I've been here from 1977. I'm also the medical of the embassy. But the thing I've been hearing from 1977, when I came here, from many brilliant men, Italian women that are working in United States, and I'm only here few in comparison to how many are in United States, is that they wanted to come back to Italy. But there are two major issues for which they cannot come back: to bring their own brilliant knowledge and enthusiasm for what they do and to bring it to Italy. One is a nepotism. And the second one, there are no rules that encourage them to come back to Italy, like recognition of what they've done. Can you tell me if perhaps something is going to change in these two particular areas?
Who wants to answer?
I can say something. Well, what I can say is that I don't really understand what the issue is about recognition. Maybe there is some technical thing on medical schools, I don't know. But in terms of recognition, I think that right now, more or less, Italy has recognition of degrees and also status of professors across. The two measures I was discussing before, the NADA chairs and the Human Technopole, their aim not at bringing brains back, because this would be a really dumb policy. These are aimed at that is interested in those fields in which there will be openings, some of which will be abroad and will be Italian, some will be abroad and not Italian, some of which will be in Italy and maybe not in a post that corresponds to their scientific brilliancy, because this is also happening.
Other questions over there?
Hi. Can you hear me? Yes. I'm Paolo Zuccone, MIT. You said...
Who?
I'm Paolo Zuccone from MIT. You said before that in Italy there are 80 to 100 universities, depending how you count. And this scale immediately to roughly the number of province in Italy. So don't you think that so many universities that roughly are professing to do more or less the same thing are too many? In my opinion, there is the need to go to a process of differentiation where a university finds some specialization And but I don't know what is position of the crew with respect to that. So my question is addressed to Professor Rugge.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yes, no to the first question, yes to the second. First question is, there are too many universities? No. If you compare figures, and you see that we don't have too many universities in comparison with countries like Germany, and I'm not sure, maybe also the USA. But certainly, European countries have as many universities as Italy. It is true that there is not such a process of specialization as we would like to see working. I think universities are starting to do that. They realize that they better say, we are very good for that, that, and that. And therefore, they are adopting more and more strategic plans that show to the outsiders, to the stakeholders, what they think they are good at. But this process must be developed. So not too many universities, but yes, we have to differentiate more. May I say another reason why people are not coming back to Italy? Because we cannot pay a salary. Please, stop with this nepotism story. They filled your mind with this idea. This is not the problem of Italian university. You say that we have a problem of stating that we are good. Well, I don't think that there is any authority in the world that fills up the newspapers for 3 or 4 days saying that the problem of Italian universities is nepotism. Therefore, we have to defend ourselves. And probably, yes, we feel inferior because we would like to have people in charge that would treat things more responsible.
Hello?
Thank you. Next question.
I'm Vincenzo Gennarino from Baylor Houston, Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. I would like to speak from the side of a young research that already go outside from Italy and then they try to come back. So I really believe that, I partially agree with you what you said before, that I really believe that we should push people to go out, not stay in Italy. They need to go out. But like she said, it's not easy to come back. And why it's not easy to come back, one of the reasons is because, like before you say about we are looking for outstanding people, when those people became outstanding, there's no way to compete between university in USA and Italy. Even if the IET is very good and the startup will be very good, the salary will be good, doesn't matter. Outstanding people maybe will go to Harvard, MIT, Baylor College. There's no way, because there's no way to compete. And one reason is because the government is not putting a lot of money for that. We have the low percentage in the world about money going to research, and this is not easy. So even if I would like to come back and already got different offer from Italy, I will never say yes right now. And the reason is because I'm scared about my future and whatever will happen to me, because we don't know. And I'm sure that staying in Europe, or at least in the USA, my future will go up and up again. So I don't think how can you fix those problems, how you can compete with the USA system.
No, I think that Dr. Cingolani can reply.
So, but what is the question then?
Yeah.
How we compete?
Yeah, how can you build that outstanding people?
Fine.
No,
I have a counter question for you. Tell me, what do you want to go back to Italy? Tell me the 3 priorities you have to go back to Italy for a given offer. Imagine I can tell you, tell me what you want, and I give you. What are your 3 priorities?
So I think for everybody, the priority is having a good startup, because a good startup will give you the possibility to write an ERC grant. And then having a possibility, because even if you become tenure track, it doesn't matter, you need to still have grants. And usually in USA, you have a private grants, internal grants. It's not only the ERC or the R01 in NIH. And then have a good lab, like you say. And I think that
I can tell you what is the
but I'm not critical with IT. Right? I'm not speaking about the IT. I know the IT is going very well.
Really, I have 3 kids. Okay, my first boy is 22 and he works in Sweden. So this is the same question as to my elder son. there was not a provocation. I just want to understand. So my point is very simple. You said, I want to have a budget. So you want to be a PI with budget responsibility. You have to know that for 5 years you have money, let's say 300K every year for 5 years or so. It's a number for a life scientist. For a physicist, it would be a bit more, maybe. Let's say, including your salary. Then you want to have a good infrastructure. Fine. And I assume you want to be in an international environment because you want to feel alone, you know, in a nice city full of monuments, but you, and that's all. Right. Okay, the 3 things that you are mentioning are exactly the 3 things IIT is offering, and some university is offering in Italy. The commitment of those who are trying to make the system work is to enlarge, to expand this model offer. This requires time. And when I say we want somebody outstanding, look, I come from 30 years of sport in my life, okay? I'm a very sporty person. Outstanding is a relative concept. Of course, we try to hire the best. But when I say the best, is, you know, it has to be compliant with your offer, budget, and possibilities. So if your name is Real Madrid, it's going to be Ronaldo. If your name is, I don't know, any other team, it can be something not absolutely outstanding, but relatively outstanding. But this is the way to step up, to grow. And this requires time, commitment, but also it requires that the young people understand the opportunity. Yeah. And in some sense, I think that my expectation is that Human Technopole, for instance, could be another attractor, just like IIT was for the 2-3 fields where it is well known.
Yeah, but what exactly?
No, I think that you can go on at the coffee, but be aware that Dr. Cingolani is a fighter, not just a sportsman. He used to be a boxer. So you told me when I wrote your story for Make in Italy, yes. So be aware. We have time for 3 more questions, very quick. So first one there, yeah. Hello. Here. And
so I'm Francesco Dombesi from NASA. I'd like to know what is the link between the Human Technopole and the wider system of universities in Italy, and also research centers such as CNR. Because there are already a lot of research centers spread over Italy. The Human Technopole will be very big, but localized in Milan.
Thank you. Well, needless to say, at the very beginning, the center of mass is Milan. So the 3 universities of Milan and the 9 or so medical research institutions, the IRCs, are all involved. And this was kind of original direction of the law that was made. Right now, for the time being, we already have 6 regional governments that already sent us letter of endorsement, actually letter of interest, because they want to join the Technopole method, just sharing the data, the IRCs that is operating in the region, the university medical school part operating in the region, and of course the regional funding for the prevention and so on, for the health. So essentially, I have the expectation that the model could be easily extended to the entire country, especially if you consider that you have a central facility for the database, a central facility for the high throughput screening, at least for the early years. And then this could be really a national model. CNR. With CNR, we had a very long discussion lately. CNR operates within a couple of genomic consortia at Europe level. And of course, they already work on big databases. So the idea is that soon there will be a commission, mixed commission between with CNR and the Technopole. And least but not last, the present CNR is one of the members of the board of trustees. So essentially, when the government decided to include the CNR president into the board of trustees, automatically has extended the possibility of interaction to CNR. I mean, to be done, okay, but it's a clear direction to be pursued.
Thank you. Over there.
Leonardo Angelone from the US Food and Drug Administration. As a supervisor and mentor, the main challenge I face with students is not resources, is motivation and motivating them. I agree on the inferiority complex. I'm curious if there is any ongoing effort in involving and teaching and having students at high school level, in encompassing the level of science. That's when minds are formed even before they get to university. And frankly, that's what I see when I mentor students that come from Italy than students that come from the US system. There is a completely different mentality approach right after high school in terms of motivation, in terms of believing in themselves, in terms of direction where they are going.
This is a statement, I suppose. It's a statement.
Are you involved in high school? That's the question.
Not for us.
Is there any effort in involving high school students in
Well,
all this?
Well, I could say that we are trying to better the functioning of universities. Unfortunately, I'm not at the moment involved in trying to better the educational process at lower level. And yes, we don't have a problem with economic resources for students. Although if we had more, we could be more generous in supporting talents. But no, I don't think that there is a problem of motivation in our students, although you seem to believe the contrary.
Yeah, one question from there, and then the last question from Professor.
Patrizio Antici from INRS in Canada. So my question is more for Mr. Simoni and Cingolani. Actually, 3 weeks ago, I was invited by the European Commission to attend the first workshop on international science advising. The European Commission realized that innovation through science is only possible if you have the right science advising. And myself and probably others also have been fighting, not so much with the idea, but to defend the idea at policymakers in order to get the funding. So I was wondering if you can tell me how this science advising mechanism is working in Italy and how effective it is. Thank you.
No, you go ahead.
Science advising?
So, yeah, I honestly, science advising, I don't know, like, what are you referring to? Like science advising the government? Or I honestly don't know what is the topic of your question.
So this was
Sorry?
It was science advising. Sorry, it was science advising at government level,
Okay.
but it can be any institutional level. This European Commission had 7 people advising them, so the science advising mechanism. Canada has 14 advisors. New Zealand has 13 advisors.
Okay, I got it. No, what I can tell you is that the process through which the government takes decision is something that is part of a broad ongoing reforming of the Italian institutional infrastructure. You might have heard that there is a slightly important vote about constitutional changes going to happen in a month and a half. And part of the changes in the last 2 years have also regarded how bureaucracy and how government works. One of the tenets of discussion in the public debate in Italy with regards to the human technopole and with the other measures we've been discussing today was how these were generated. So that a lot of the scientific advice the Prime Minister takes is from top scientists from Italian institutions, which include the CRUI, includes the rectors of the main Italian universities in terms of scientific prestige, and includes, of course, scientific director of the IIT. So at this point, it's not structured in the way that you described the Commission has, although there are, of course, within the Ministry for Education and University, a more structured system.
Thank you. The very last question from Professor Campese.
I want to comment on a question of somebody from the back. I don't remember the name. We had proposed as ISNAF a couple of years ago to MUR and to the Ministry of Public Health to go to high school and have motivational type of lecture to entice young people to initiate a career in science. In Italy, there are 250,000 lawyers, and still young people are going into law school, and then they cannot find jobs. Certainly, motivating young people at the right age into undergoing into a career in science would be important. I reiterate again to you, we didn't discuss this morning, but this could be something that we would be interested in pursuing. Some of us are in Italy quite frequently, so to go to major high schools and give motivational talks about the importance of science and the importance of undertaking a career in science, I think would be useful.
I think that's a very good suggestion, and I think our time is over. I thank all the panelists, and let's go for the coffee break, right?
Okay, thank you.